Hey everybody, it's Kneecap here, and in this video I will be talking about Classic WoW again with the beta going on, and they just keep putting out more interesting stories and experiences from their beta access, which I unfortunately don't have. So I'm not sure if I'm going to do a video every week about Classic, although it's possible. Until it actually comes out, then I might. I do my This Week in WoW every week for retail version, so I might do a weekly video about Classic as well every week when that actually goes live. Or if I get do get some sort of beta access before it comes live, then I'd probably be more likely to put out a weekly video or maybe more, depending how much fun it is, depending what the excitement level is on it. So that's where I'm at now. But yeah, so maybe one a week now, but doubtful. Definitely one a week if I get beta or when it comes live. So the most recent post I read, the last video I was talking a little bit how people are they wanted Classic a lot, but they didn't really necessarily understand everything that was to be Classic. So I'm going to talk about a few things we were talking about in my raid, just kind of making jokes, and then I want to talk about this post I was reading. So these people did very intensive testing, especially for just random people, not running simulations, like actual in-game testing on the beta, to see about dodge, parry, block chance of mobs and higher level mobs. They were thinking that when a mob was higher level than you, it was block, parrying, and dodging more than what it was supposed to be. So they did testing on it. They came up with numbers. Those numbers ended up being correct numbers, but the problem was their reference point was not correct. So based on what I read, they were using old blue posts from a site that you can no longer read. So I don't know if they were going off their memory or what. Like, you can't go to the archive of the site and you can't go look at the stuff that they're saying was their information. So I don't know if that happened like in the last week and they had the information, then you can no longer get it, or if they were just going off their memory. That wasn't in the post or in the thing I was reading, but those numbers ended up not being correct. Their testing numbers ended up being correct and consistent with what Blizzard got. So Blizzard actually responded because one thing they always say is if you give us a detailed complaint with actual things that we can look into, instead of just saying PvP sucks, okay, what do we do there? Or warriors suck, or paladins suck, whatever. Okay, that doesn't tell them anything. So they took the information, they tested it out, and they got the same exact numbers as the other guys did. But then they also tested it in the old their reference client, they called it. So the original, I'm assuming, vanilla WoW or classic WoW client, or patch 1.12 is what they're going off of. So they tested it on the patch 1.2 original client, not what the people are getting in beta, and they got the same exact numbers there as well. So it ended up being that the reference is wrong, but it goes to show you that people's ideas are just kind of off on necessarily what Classic was. But in this case, I don't see why it's even a big deal, because it's actually consistent. The numbers that they thought it should have been lower, so like it should be easier to kill higher level stuff. That was not the case. It was very hard to kill higher level stuff back in Classic and Vanilla. But they thought it should have been slightly easier. But later on in the game, they actually upped the parry, dodge, and all that stuff for enemies as they got higher level, as the expansions came out. So the numbers are actually consistent with those as well. But the problem was that they weren't really upped. From my understanding of the reading, they were upped in certain instances, like regarding like when expertise was put into the game, for example. Just like modifiers needed to get to that same kind of baseline area. So long story short, it was just kind of a misunderstanding, I suppose. And I think there's going to be more of these coming out every week, every day, whatever, with people thinking that things should be one way when they should be other. Another person kind of mentioned that it could have been possible that they were referencing maybe a private server, and I don't know how a blue post would have been reference to that. But again, I don't know if the blue posts are even real because we can't look at them. So without being able to reference it myself, I just have to assume that they had a misunderstanding, or that they, just weren't thinking right about it. Some other things I want to talk about were some of the funny things we're talking about classic WoW, and something I was thinking about while leveling. So I've been leveling up my mage. It's a Culturian mage, so obviously not vanilla or classic there. But I was doing quests in Duskwood, and I was thinking back to when I was would level in Duskwood back in vanilla or classic on my characters, and I'm pretty sure Duskwood only had one flight path, and it was in Darkshire. So there's a flight path over on the western side in the graveyard now. I don't think that was there. I wish I had beta access to check before I made this video, but I don't believe that was there. And you had to just run back and forth across the whole zone. I do believe. I could be wrong, but I really believe. I can't remember the flight path being there. I think that was added in Kata or something, along with some different quests and stuff when they kind of reworked the way the quests worked there. I'm not positive on that, but just there are things even if this one isn't true, there's many flight paths that exist now that didn't exist back then. I just remember I personally, maybe I was just an idiot and there was a flight path, but I personally just remember having to run from one side to the other, doing the Legend of Stalvin, and I don't even know if that one takes you to the west side, but getting Abercrombie's crate for him and then having to run all the way back instead of up to the flight path and back, and I was thinking of stuff like that, and in that way, I just don't have that kind of time, man. I just don't. I don't want to play a game like that, in all honesty, where I have to do that much running around. It's just a little ridiculous. And then some other things we were talking about is hunters. So if you don't know, hunters used to actually have to use arrows and bullets. They weren't all magical. So you had to, you would have a quiver. Your quiver would increase your attack speed or whatever for your arrows, or you'd have a gun sack or whatever it was called, and you put your bullets in that, and it would increase your shooting speed or whatever. And then you would also have another bag full of just arrows or bullets in case you ran out, and you would have to keep stock up on these, and you had to buy them or whatever. I think maybe you could craft them, but you had to get them in some way, shape, or form, and so your bags would be full of bullets or arrows or both, or if maybe you were using a gun, but there was a chance a bow that you really wanted for an upgrade could drop, so you would have some arrows with you in case of that. Also talking about warlocks having to collect soul shards in their bags, create health stones, and then hand them out individually to people, and then mage water, creating I think 10 at a time, and then passing that out to your entire raid, or everybody with mana at least, and passing that out to your raid. So there's all these kind of nuanced things with these classes, having to actually buy these reagents for your buffs. I remember one thing I always would do when I got to a new city is I'd have to be oh wait, where's when I'm, I don't know the game yet, it's my first time. All right, where's the reagent vendor? I need to buy these reagents so I can buff my stuff up. So those are all some things I was thinking about fondly and not fondly this week, and just kind of getting laughs about it. As much I'm just because I personally like the game better now, I understand that it was a better RPG back in original and classic. I'm not trying to say that it wasn't, but it does kind of make me laugh just because I guess I'm just one that sees all these people talking positive about it, and so I like to give the other side of the story. It was inconvenient. There were some silly things. There's some super inconvenient. If you're gonna have all these arrows and bullets, then you should have an extra bag slot or something. So there's all kinds of stuff like that that I was thinking about, and I'm fully acknowledging that Classic and Vanilla was a really good game, but it's for a certain set of people with a certain amount of time, certain amount of attention to detail of having reagents and stuff like that, and wanting that, and well, I can't cast this without a reagent, so yeah. That's it for this one on Classic here. I do enjoy talking about it. At the end of this year, I find myself laughing and smiling a lot. So maybe I will do one every week on Classic or Vanilla. So yeah, please subscribe to the channel if any video has ever helped you, entertained you, or if you just want to help me out. And everybody have a good one.